Hello, let's recap Person of Interest, Season 4, Episode 12, called Control Alt Delete. So this episode is actually straying from the other two in the trilogy, where we start off in the perspective of the Control and the relevant side. So like the US government, the White House, the Chief of Staff, who got a visit from Samaritan's avatar, the little boy, who said he wanted to talk to the president, and he spouts off some facts like, oh, I started the stock crash, and I will see you tomorrow when your profile drops 16 points. Actually, at the end, it actually does happen, and Samaritan's like, okay, now you've seen what I can do. Let's talk. I want to talk to the president. So Control, who's the woman who's in charge of the relevant numbers, who is now reporting to Samaritan since Samaritan has made the deal with the government. So now it's Samaritan, not the machine, that is research. That's what Shaw used to do. So Control gets this alert that she has to go down because there's a backpack bombing going on in Detroit with a bunch of Middle Eastern people who are here on student visas but one American, and it turns out they're all living in this house. They've been paying for it with back accounts, and it looks like a terrorist bombing that they're doing because they're all like from MIT and they're buying backpacks, and at first Control is suspicious because they're all like, yo, Crimson 6 is ready, on your go, ma'am, and she's like, well, what's our source material? And so the representative of Samaritan who's there is a man named Travers, and he says, oh, it's our source material is that Samaritan is never wrong, and she's like, I want the specifics, I want to know why we are attacking these people. And so she gets the answers, which are obviously what Samaritan wanted her to see. Samaritan has put everything so that it looks like these guys are terrorists. And then when they get to the laptop, it's encoded, like they won't let her see it at all. And she's like pushing Samaritan because she's not trusting this AI because she can tell that it's different than the machine. Travers just shuts down the whole system. Samaritan doesn't want them to see it because it may like compromise itself. There are things on the laptop that it doesn't want people to see, which are obviously things that could take it down. So they turn intelligence back on, and so they track Saeed to, a warehouse. And Control, instead of going by Samaritan and going through her system, she gets on a burner phone and contacts Crimson 6 herself, which is with Agent Grice, who was the guy who let Shaw go. And so she tells them to report directly to her because she wants to get the edge on Samaritan by finding out whatever's in that laptop that they didn't want her to see. So she tells them where to go, and then they go there, and they're actually like their orders are to get the laptop first and to investigate the guy before they shoot him, which is, back in the old days before AIs were in control of research. And so the relevant guys are, getting down Saeed, and they get him, they get the laptop, and then it explodes. They don't have the laptop, and so they can't shoot him. He gets away in a taxi cab. And meanwhile, she's being watched, because she's on a park bench using the burner phone. It's like a satellite phone thing. It's really weird. It's one of those old ones, but it can't be tracked. But apparently Samaritan does track it because she has, people all around her, and so they know what she's doing, and she gets a message on her phone saying, stop it now. So meanwhile, while all of this is happening, there have been news reports everywhere about guys in a ski mask who are like tossing around people, causing car accidents, shooting people in kneecaps. So it sounds like, our irrelevant team. And it's a male and a woman. So then they find a ticket for a dock that he's going to leave on. So Control's like, I'm going down there myself. So she goes down there with her truck, and they're ready to shoot the guy off of the moving train, and then boom, their car gets crashed, and it topples over, upside down. Control comes out of the car, shattered glass everywhere, and then the two people take off the ski masks, and guess what? It's Reese and Root. That's right, they were the guys causing trouble. They're like, oh, sorry, we're just looking for our friend. So obviously we know they're looking for Shaw after last week's episode when Shaw was injured. We know she was shot after she pushed the button in the elevator, and supposedly Samaritan has her. And since Control is in charge of Samaritan, the assumption is that Control knows where Shaw is. So that's why they take her to the place where she interrogated Root in order to interrogate her. So Root, it's like a total switch of positions, and she is going to make her pay for cutting off her ear. So remember that big explosion gun that Root and Harold had to use the machine to help get, Yeah, that big thing that they got from those guys who then got arrested. Yeah, that's the big weapon that they use in order to take down her car. And they're like, hey, you like our big explosion gun? Because we've been saving that for a special occasion, and this is it. It's really like a total switch throughout the halfway point of the episode, because the first half is all control, giving orders, demanding things, and telling the chief of staff, hey, I have saved this country 865 times from threats, from outside terrorist threats. So why don't you give me some respect for taking care of that? And, she doesn't have her bodyguards anymore because they were actually attacked and their information taken by the two guys in the ski masks, which were the irrelevant team. They have her in this cage and they're playing kind of good cop, bad cop. And it's actually one of those things that really does work because Root has a revenge thing to take out. And Root uses her daughter as leverage, tell us where Shaw is, or this little girl will be just like you. She'll know what it is to grow up without a mother, which is giving us a little more background into Control's a character, really, and her past and why she is what she is today. And so, as Root is using her daughter as leverage, she's also using a taser, and she's going to just put it in her mouth and pretty much shock her to death. And before she can do that, though, Harold comes in and says, no, that's not the way we're going to do this. Harold starts telling her, how much Shaw risked. She risked her life for thousands of people she doesn't even know, and all with the knowledge that no one is ever going to know her name. And, every day they do this for people that they don't know, and every loss is unbearable, but when it's someone you know, it's so much deeper. And so, Finch, kind of implies that he thinks that Shaw is dead, and he doesn't have the courage to tell Root or Reese because, they'd be really upset about it, and they're like full strong on finding her because they think that Samaritan does have her. And the surveillance footage was apparently unreadable, so they do have their suspicions left. And so Harold is talking about the stock exchange, and that's when Control's like, what the hell does that have to do with anything? Why does that have to do with Shaw? And then Harold is like, oh, there was a major shootout under the beating heart of the American economy building, and you don't know anything about it? Like, how did you not know? And then he realizes that she is too in the dark. She doesn't know anything about what Samaritan is doing, and they're keeping her there for a reason. And so he's like, you're not in control of anything. You foolish woman, you're the janitor. You're just the cleanup crew. Which is basically what we've seen in the first part of the episode with her taking out all of those Middle Eastern guys and trying to take out Saeed and his laptop. And then the Samaritan agents come in, and then Harold says something to the effect of that they were expecting them. And now we realize that that was their plan all along. It wasn't really to interrogate Control, it was to get the Samaritan agents there because they're connected to her and they want their information. So a fight breaks out, and it's against, Reese and Root and everybody else with guns and Crimson Six and the Samaritan agents who are in the van, and Harold gets to the van, and with Fusco's help he knocks them out, and then he hacks into the system. So what it turns out is that it's all, government people, and they're all spies, and Harold wants to know who among those spies is the spy for Samaritan, and whoever that is will have an encrypted phone, and that's what Harold wants to tap into. Among these people is Agent Grice, who is Shaw's friend, and when he's fighting Reese, it turns out that, before Reese kills him, like, this is for Shaw, he recognizes the name, and Reese realizes that he's the one who let her live, and so, they stop fighting for 1 second. So we have kind of a peace at the very end, which is very rare. Harold did find the encrypted phone, and he got a lead as to where Shaw might be. It's a small lead, but it is something, which Root is just really grateful for. And so Control tracks down Yassine Saeed to Canada, where he reveals he's not actually a terrorist. He won a competition called Nautilus, which was episode 2 of this season, where they followed the Nautilus games. And so what happened is he got a text about a job, and it was for coding. And now he said that they were kept in the dark, and that was common for coders to just send whatever they got, and to really not know what the big picture was. And, she's like, well, that's what terrorists do, too. Saeed asks her if she can consider the possibility that she's been lied to, and she can't. She shoots him. Saeed's dead, and it turns out that was what Samaritan wanted, because once they got the code, they had no use for these guys, and they needed the relevant government to clean up their mess. So Harold sends Root and Reese out on the coordinates that he found where a supposed refrigerated truck could have gone, small town upstate. It's a fragile lead, but they want to find Shaw and they're on their way. It's interesting because we know they're not actually going to find her since the actress has left the show. At the very end, Control goes to the basement of the stock exchange where she has been informed that there has been a shootout, and she asks if it's been cleaned, and she can tell that it has been, and so she now knows that she has been lied to. Where that's going to lead, we don't know. Are they ever going to find traces of Shaw? We don't know. What's going to happen with Samaritan when it meets the president? We don't know. We'll find out.